So now I'm doing the rear motor mount on my 2004 Dodge Stratus. So there it is up there. There's the rear of the vehicle. So I just have to get that 14mm bolt out there, and there's two on the bottom, and I think that's it. Okay, so I managed to get those two bolts out so far. I just have to get that center one out then, and I should be able to wiggle it out. Now it might be easier if I removed this cross member again, but I don't feel like doing that, so let's see what happens with this. So that center bolt up there is actually being really tough, so I got this extension and this universal on it here, and I'm going to use the impact. So also, to get that bolt out, you're going to have to put a 14mm wrench down on the other side on the nut there. You can see it. So okay, so I got that middle nut and bolt out, and then I noticed that there's also a bolt on the back here. Let's see if we can see it. Yeah, right there. So I just got to get this onto that right there. Use a power tool, get that thing right out. Okay, so it looks like it's actually 16mm. And yes, I'm cutting these stupid things off and getting rid of this red wire loom. I hate it. Okay, and with that top bolt finally out, dropped off to God knows where, I got this out finally. Now, it's not actually in too bad a shape. I mean, it's seen better days. It's got some cracks and stuff if you look really closely and move it around. But yeah, I want the upgrade. Can't wait for that to be done. So let's cut this out and press in the new one. So first, remove the center by cutting it out with a Sawzall, if you have a Sawzall, or whatever works, I guess. And then I'm going to make two cuts, I guess probably around here, right next to each other, because I found that worked best. And then when that piece starts coming out, the rest is easy to just collapse, or it almost falls out. And once you get it about this far, you can either start going at it with a punch or a chisel or whatever, or you can risk going a tiny bit further. I might go a hair further and then get out the punch. Alright, so I just went a tiny bit further. It's pretty much paper thin at that point, so I'm going to get out the chisel and start hammering. So here's my hammer and chisel. If I had a third arm, I'd be able to do this on camera, but I don't. So I'm going to stick it right in here and start hammering. Well, tapping actually, until I see it start peeling away. Then I'm going to start going more forcefully to go right through. As you can see, I got it started. You're going to want to angle it in as you're tapping, but it's going to start peeling and folding pretty quick. So this was being tough. Once I got this center part pretty much pushed in like this, I took the Sawzall to try to break through the metal all the way, and it actually just pulled it right out. So next, with two hands, obviously, take the file and remove any burrs that you made, or any that might have already been there. I made a couple tiny little ones. This is already looking pretty clean. I would suggest using a round file too if you have one, or one with a, rounded edge. So this is what you want it to look like before you go to press in the new bushing. Next, to press in the bushing that says rear from this kit. So I'm going to go do that on my vise. Like I've said before in the other video, you want to push in this side. See how this side has an angle and this side is flat? You want to push the angle side through, and I would lube this up a little bit, or lube this up, whatever. That helps it actually go through much easier. Okay, so I got that to go right in using my vise. Now once again, it started slipping on one half, and I just basically loosened the vise a tiny bit and spun the thing to where it wasn't going into that part, and then just started tightening the vise again, and it started slipping in, and there was a edge that seemed like it wasn't going in, like maybe a third of it, but you just tighten a little bit slowly and it just starts pulling in. It's actually very satisfying to watch, and then the whole thing just starts going right in very easily. Now, it's not all the way in right now, but I was hoping that maybe I could finish the job on camera. All I did last time was give it a little tap. Let me see if I could do it just sitting here maybe. Oh, look at that. It went all the way through. So, I mean, you could just tap it anywhere or hold it in your hand and tap it in the air one time. It goes right through. Now, before you go shoving one of these metal things through here, I would suggest going underneath the car or above the car in this case, and just putting it in the bracket and making sure it fits. Now, this one's the right one that fits perfectly in there. So, time to shove this in here. It goes in very easily too. Now, some sticks out on either side. That's just the way it is. So don't worry about that. There you go. Now it'll center out perfectly once you're installing it very easily. So don't worry about exactly where it is right now. So let's drop this back down in place so we can get it reinstalled. There we go, it's sitting in place. So to get the mount in, I actually had to jack up the motor a tiny bit. Now as I was jacking, it looked like the whole car was actually jacking up, so I was very careful about it and going slow. And obviously I didn't put the car up in the air or anything, but once I got it to a certain point, I was actually able to slip that center bolt in. I haven't put any of the other bolts in yet. In fact, the center bolt isn't all the way through, but it feels like it'll go through with a slight little tap of a hammer. So I'm going to do that real quick. Up in there. So I tapped it with the hammer a few times. It seemed like the bolt was bouncing, but I don't know if you can see it there. The bolt is actually starting to come through, so I guess I can tap it with the hammer a little more and get it to come through. Now there isn't much swinging room here, and like I said, the regular hammer here was actually just bouncing, but I got my little short little Thor's hammer here, and with the extra weight on the end and the shorter handle, I was able to tap it right through. And there it is the rest of the way. So I put the top bolt in and I couldn't get it to actually start, but I put the gun on it and slowly let it spin, and I wiggled it around, gave it a little pressure, and it actually started and is going in smoothly. So I just need to work on the bottom two bolts next. The one is going in finger tight pretty easily, and the other started but wants to fight me pretty early on. So let's see how that one goes. So this is a pretty tight squeeze in here, but I got a 3/8 ratchet and a 14mm 3/8 socket on here, and the one that wasn't starting easily, I did get it to start, and it is going okay. I have anti-seize on, a tiny bit of anti-seize on both of the bolts to hopefully help them go in easier. So to torque this last one all the way tight that we started with, I put a socket and ratchet on the other end just hanging, and I'm lightly ratcheting this until it's tight. So that ended up being kind of a pain. I think that one's probably going to be the most difficult one. I would say that even if you're replacing it with a regular stock one, it would definitely be the more difficult one. Now the next one I'm going to start on is going to be the transmission one here.